Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, Capital Markets Analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we're going to take a look at the top 10 cannabis news stories of the week, starting with number 10. Early weed investors and business minds are positioning themselves in the world of psychedelic medicine as the flow of smart money hits the market. We're going to go ahead and skip this story. I feel like Bruce Linton is a pay-to-play. I don't think that this is a true story. I think it's just more of a press release, a PR stunt. Bruce Linton is really good at getting press releases out there, terrible at actually generating revenue. So until he actually generates revenue, I'm going to skip his stories from here on out. I feel like he's more of a pay to play instead of an actual real news story. So moving on to number 9, there's scientists that sue the DEA over alleged secret documents that delayed marijuana research expansion. So the Scottsdale Research Institute is behind the suit. The Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA, is finding itself in court over marijuana again after scientists filed a lawsuit against the agency requesting, quote, secretive documents that they allege the DEA used to delay action on expanding cannabis research. Might have to dive into that one on a different story altogether. But moving on to number 8, there's panic buying that shifts from toilet paper to pot stocks amid the COVID crisis. I think that was temporary. We saw initial spikes as people were wondering if there was going to be state closures. And now that cannabis has been deemed essential businesses in at least 6 states, I think that Massachusetts is the only one that closed rec shops but left medical open. And so I think that it's just going to be ended up flat in the sales as people kind of went out, bought a bunch of products, and then as they realized that they were essential businesses and weren't going to be shutting down, they haven't really gone back. So haven't seen a continuation of those peak crazy, sales that we saw. So I think that the sales numbers are going to end up being normalized over time as that the peak and then the trough levels out. The cannabis sector was on fire. The majority of pot stocks that are posting gains like we haven't seen in a long time, that's because there was an oversell. And when you oversell a stock, that creates an opportunity to buy. And so that's really what you're seeing right now is an oversell and people kind of buying the dip. So not necessarily a great investment, but there are opportunities in volatility to make some money. I think that's what you're seeing. Number 7 is that there's some pot producers helping fill a need for crucial medical gear. So as hospitals across Canada scramble to find new protective gear for healthcare workers who are on the front lines of the COVID-19 outbreak, some are getting free shipments from an unlikely source, which is licensed cannabis producers. Several major Canadian licensed producers, or LPs, like Canopy Growth and Hexo, have provided hospitals with personal protection equipment such as face masks, gloves, bodysuits, drawing from their own excess inventory. We've also seen some crazy stuff from Nike actually manufacturing face masks. I think Mercedes just came out with a new ventilation system. And then a jersey maker for Major League Baseball jerseys is making face masks. So some unprecedented stuff we haven't seen since the 40s. Number 6 on the list is Alethea Health. They launch a last mile medical cannabis home delivery service. So the service will provide next day direct to home delivery to medical cannabis patients. They're launching the last mile medical cannabis home delivery service to provide patients next day direct at home delivery on medical cannabis orders made in Ontario's Greater Golden Horseshoe region, home to over 9 million people. It's probably one of the biggest changes that I think we're going to see from COVID is more people utilizing delivery, whether it's groceries or cannabis or otherwise. I think that there's going to be a lot of people that understand not only the convenience, but just not having to deal with being close to people. I think is going to be a huge shift that probably won't go back to normal. There's a lot of stuff that just won't go back to normal. Number 5 on the list is Michigan is smoking more marijuana than any other state during the coronavirus pandemic. Michigan being the 10th state to go legal. I thought maybe it would be Illinois, having been the most recent at number 11, but Michigan are lighting up. So according to a Twitter survey conducted by the health blog bodynutrition.org, Michigan residents are smoking more marijuana than any other state during the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. And analysts are using the trend software with direct access to geotag Twitter data to arrive at that conclusion. Data is only good as you can get it, right? Bad data in is bad data out. So I don't know, maybe looking at different platforms. I think it's interesting in and of itself just to take a look at data from particular platforms. So whether that data is the same for, LinkedIn or Instagram or, God forbid, Facebook being a black hole, you just drop a note in there, and who knows where that goes with 2 billion users every day and all the negativity and all the bullshit that Facebook has. I'm more of a LinkedIn person. I mean, I post on just about everywhere, but I try to steer clear personally of Facebook. It's just an absolute nightmare. But knowing or getting that data and how different platforms will give you different information, I think is fascinating in and of itself. But most cannabis companies, I don't think, use Twitter. Do you guys? Leave a comment in the notes. Let me know what your Twitter handle is. Number four, Curaleaf breaks a trend, beginning hiring due to the pandemic crisis. So it appears that Curaleaf has broken a recent layoff trend in the cannabis sector. So rather than looking at reduced headcounts, Curaleaf announced that it's looking to hire more people after receiving essential service designation in a number of markets in which it operates. I'm not a fan of Cureleaf. I think that they've had way too many deals in the 800, $900 million range. Not quite a billion, because they didn't want to raise too many red flags, but it seems to me like the lack of an arm's distance deal means that the people that they're working with are too closely related, and in some cases previous employees. So although it's just my opinion, I think Cureleaf is going to end up getting some serious lawsuits down the road, either investigation from the SEC or shareholders or both. I'm not convinced that they're on the up and up. We'll see. Number three is marijuana recession proof. Industry experts say yes. They point to alcohol. That might be a guide. Also, tobacco and gaming. The legal cannabis industry appears poised to enter uncharted waters as the economy engulfed by a full-fledged recession. So we already did a podcast 10 months ago about Sen stocks or Vice stocks. Recently just did one last week as well. And basically, there's historical evidence on the performance of stocks that support the theory that sin stocks have provided significant higher returns than stocks in general. So you can see that from the 2000 to 2002 downturn, the Standard and Poor's Casino and Gaming Index, they gained 115%, while the S&P stock index plunged 47%. So comparing the tobacco giant Altria, which was known as Philip Morris, they more than doubled, and the stock of Anheuser-Busch, the largest brewer, they advanced 87%. So cannabis companies being a part of the Sen stocks or Vice stocks have an inverse relationship to the overall market after total carnage has been hit, and all of the margin calls and everything have been met. After that, you should see a V-shaped recovery, a fastest recovery with Sen stocks or Vice stocks. People kind of go to gambling and tobacco and alcohol. Um, and we'll do another one where you're actually seeing some countries ban alcohol entirely, which could be good for cannabis if people in France, for example, as alcohol sales in Greenland and France have been banned, might actually increase sales for cannabis even more, which might even be reflected in cannabis stocks later on in the year. All right, number two on the list is that provinces and states, they're making cannabis an essential service during the pandemic. So across Canada, a new type of policy is being enacted on multiple levels of government. So grocery stores and cannabis stores are essential businesses, so they're allowed to stay open. And so a lot of people that had rushed out to get some cannabis products no longer have to stand and wait in lines. There's some delivery options available in places like California. I think Canada has some options as well. Washington State does not have delivery services, but you can pre-order and go and pick that up. But we have at least 6 states in the U.S. that have deemed cannabis as an essential business, so that should be interesting as the pandemic kind of wears off at the end of 2020, maybe 2021. Might actually look at legalization. There's so many industries that have been affected by cannabis that I think that the U.S. government will start looking at legalization as a way to shore up some of the money that was lost. Tax revenue, of course, is something that they're going to be taking a look at, and this is the crisis that I've been calling for that would allow for legalization. There's too many conservatives that aren't going to allow for it unless there's a reason. So either it's for the kids or there's money. There's going to have to be an ultimate reason to allow for that. So I think that this is going to be that crisis that's going to lead to a huge wave of money. So you see the helicopter money, trillions of dollars for everything. Eventually, they're going to look to get some revenue somehow. I think cannabis legalization is going to be that way to generate some revenue. It won't happen until after the election. So I would look early 2021 for cannabis to become federally legal. And more of the same on number one, coronavirus crisis shows that cannabis is essential and mainstream. So it's never been more clear than during the current COVID-19 pandemic that cannabis has arrived at the forefront of mainstream American society. So state after state, governors, public health officials, they're deeming cannabis businesses as essential operators that can stay open amid the coronavirus-related forced closures and stay at home. People might not be able to go bowling or see a movie, but they still can go stock up on marijuana. We're going to dive into that a little bit more on a different podcast, so you have to come back and stay tuned. With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.